We've done 9, so now we're moving on to item 10, and that is a request for antelope from Yakama Nation in Washington State. Wildlife Specialist Mike Cox for possible action. The Commission will be asked to approve a request from the Yakama Nation for up to 100 antelopes for release on tribal lands in Washington State. Mike?
Sorry, Mike Cox, Nevada Department of Wildlife. So I'm going to have Jim Stevenson, who's with the Yakama Nation in the state of Washington, come up and explain his request, and I can help explain any other questions that may come up through his presentation.
First of all, I want to thank the Nevada Department of Wildlife for the great gift of 100 antelope that we received last year. It's been a really good project. We have had some interesting things happen. We released them quite easy on the reservation. As soon as the weather warmed up, they started to scatter. They've moved as much as 50 miles to the east, to the north, to the south and southwest. This winter, when it started to get colder, they started moving back in. Just the day before yesterday, we saw 76 on the reservation in 3 different herds. And it appears that there's probably a fawn for every 2 adults, so we only have as many as 50 fawns out there. One of the reasons we're asking for antelope, it's always good to have plenty of genetic diversity in your herds for establishing things. People don't have from really bighorn sheep. The previous pronghorns were brought into the state. They were brought in the late 30s and early 1940s, and they were around 20 head. And they persisted up into the very early 1980s, and then pretty much disappeared. If we have more genetic diversity, we get more pronghorns, we'll also be able to actually open a season on these animals. But it's been well received by we've had one complaint from a farmer so far. Most people are very happy to see him back. The Michigan Department of Fish and Wildlife is on board. They're working with us on this. And the Safari Club, there's 4 chapters that work with us. The sportsmen's clubs have been very active in this and helped to finance it. And it's just been a very gratifying project the whole way along. One other thing, this is going to be short and sweet. And the other thing that's happened back about a year ago, I got appointed to the Bureau Management's Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board. Mike asked me if I was crazy, and I'm not quite sure if I am or not, but anyway, I'm a natural resource representative, and I would really like input from people in Nevada, particularly people from the Nevada Department of Wildlife. It's kind of, the way it looks, I've been waiting. It's going to be an uphill battle to make much change, but all the ideas I can get from people, I'd appreciate very much. And thank you. I've got some cards here if anybody would like to. Any questions?
Anybody from the committee? I do have one, but Commissioner Rain?
Yes, briefly. If you could go over just what's the survival? I know you said you have 76. I didn't gather if those were young and adults mixed. And what are your future plans? I mean, second 100, is that going to be plenty? Next year you're going to need some more? I mean, not that's a bad thing. Just kind of throw out there. What's your...
No, I think another 100.
And you'll be...
I think at that point, that's lots of genetics. I'm thinking that'll most likely do it.
And so are we getting them from different places in Nevada than the other ones? Have you been discussing that?
This year it was going to be Kings River.
Okay.
north of Winnemucca.
Then the ones last year.
Yeah, Elko last year.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
And survivability, what have you found?
Survivability, it's been pretty hard to keep track of. We had, I think, initially 17 of them radio collared. And we've recorded either 4 or 5 mortalities. One got run over, one fell in a irrigation canal, and one was poached recently. But, and then we had a couple of early mortalities from the capture, I think, probably from the injuries from the capture. Those are the only mortalities we've recorded. I'm sure there's been more. As far as the numbers of surviving antelope, it's extremely difficult to tell, but we have, you know, we're kind of limited budgets. We haven't been able to fly much. But I found out that there's certain times when antelope are pretty hard to see even when they're there. We had radio collared antelope and have to circle a number of times to locate them. So I'm sure there are. And one of the kind of neat things this modern day and age, we get lots of pictures sent to us, people taking pictures on their cell phones. So that keeps us informed a lot about sightings of antelope in various locations. I have one person that's assigned to this. He works about 2 days a week on tracking antelope. But
Commissioner Wallace?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Has the reservation worked with all neighboring landowners and spoke with them and discussed the effects of these leaving the reservation?
We've been working on this project for, well, it took a long time before we finally everything come together. It's been 5 or 6 years. And there was a lot of public outcry from people stirred up a lot of threats of disease spreading into livestock and stuff. We were very careful and really researched things out. Worked with Nevada veterinarian Perry Wolf, as well as some other veterinarians, to make sure that we weren't bringing anything in. One of the failures was that they brought in bovine tuberculosis. Well, the last case that I could find out about was from your Nevada State vet was in 1979. So a lot of it was kind of blown out of proportion. Recently, once we got in here, we heard any more comments about it. It was kind of like it's a done deal, and so we haven't had to deal with that. But I think what's the level of there's no problem. I think that's going to kind of go away. Not only that, we have really tried to educate people. I have a brochure about that, and then we have some stuff on our website. I have distributed all these brochures to both personnel at the Department of Wildlife, but also to Safari Club members. I went to the local chapters, and we're trying to educate people. Okay, antelope aren't going to eat all your crops. There are ways to deal with this. Antelope are much easier to deal with than elk, because you can fence them out if you have to, you know. And, but you know, State of Washington, elk were reintroduced there back in the 20s and 20s, I guess, quite a long time ago. And of course, elk can do quite a bit of damage. And so people have that mindset that, yeah, we don't want more critters out here eating up our crops. Antelope eat 1/7 of the vanilla forage that a cow does. And their food habits are quite different. So if you look at the same kinds of food they eat, they're different. So you can put up to 40 or 50 antelope out there that will eat the same amount of forage that a cow does, one cow. In crop situations, like alfalfa or winter wheat, if you have lots of it out there, several, hundreds, thousands of acres. They'll move through it. They won't stay in one place, they'll move. If you have an isolated patch, they'll come in and cause damage. In those cases, antelope can be fenced out. They can be, you can make provisions without a whole lot of effort to remedy those situations.
I understand that, but as far as the neighboring people go now, you're trying to bring in another 100. Have you spoke with them about bringing in another 100 on top of the 100 you already have, plus however many new ones you have?
No, I haven't. Well, the state knows it's happening, and but no, I haven't.
Commissioner Drew?
Just kind of a couple follow-up questions, and the first one would be, in looking at the report that you handed out today, it looks like some of the animals had left the reservation boundaries, at least for the winter, and then that maybe now are coming back, and maybe you could address that. But my other question is, for those animals that do leave the reservation boundaries, either seasonally or permanently, what is the state of Washington's view on it through their Department of Wildlife? Do they have a management strategy in place? Is that going to create a conflict with them for any animals that do leave the reservation?
Well, at this point in time, Don Lowell, who is the antelope bighorn, he's got a bunch of jobs, but he's in charge of what happens here. He's very supportive. Earlier last spring, I had a meeting with a number of players, and everybody went away from that thinking this was a really good project, including the Department of Army, the people from Arid Lands Ecology Reserve. There was quite a sizable piece of land to the north in the Yakama Training Center, and that's a military base. And on Hanford, most of that is the coal, probably close to 1 million acres up there. It's pretty much adjacent to where we're at. So there's been antelope go up there. There was one on the reserve the other day, and now it's back on the res. So I fully expect these animals to keep dispersing. We can't really go back. We didn't know what to expect. They have dispersed a lot further than we thought they would. One of the wildlife areas called the Clicknet Wildlife Area, which is to the southwest of us, about 40 or 50 miles as well.
Are there any other herds outside of the reservation that are state managed at this point, or are the only antelope in the area the ones that were introduced last?
The antelope in the state are the ones we introduced. There haven't been antelope on the reservation for probably close to 100 years. It was an elder by the name of Watson Totus. He was a councilman and a pretty well-known guy. He was born, as far as I can tell, he was born around 1905. And when he was a little boy, around 1910, sometime along there, he'd go out with his grandfather on the reservation, and the antelope would come down to drink at the river off what's called Snipes Mountain, which is right off the reservation, and they'd harvest antelope there. There are a number of archaeological sites, not on the reservation, but in the surrounding area. There's the state issued permit to kill antelope in 1903. You could kill 4 deer, an antelope, elk, even caribou, but at that point. But once people with horses and guns came into the valley, and once there's lots more settlement there than there is in adjacent Oregon, in the Columbia Basin, where the antelope hung out. And I think one of the reasons they were extirpated completely there was because of guns and horses, both tribal and non-tribal people.
And that kind of feathers into my last question. I know you guys have a pretty substantial management challenge with, and I don't know what you refer to them as up there, but feral horses on the reservation.
That's correct.
Any concerns there in terms of habitat suitability or conflicts? Or maybe you can describe some of what you're seeing in terms of the horses up there.
Well, we have 3 management units for horses. We don't have management units. We don't do much management at this point because we just can't get rid of horses. But I think that's changing because of certain things that have happened recently. And we have been actually doing a project on the East Cetus area where we release the antelope. There's about 40,000 acres there that's pretty much unoccupied by horses. There's a few. We actually got a resolution passed that allows us to go ahead and with lethal removal of horses in regions where we tried to recover all we can, and if you left, we can go ahead and eliminate the rest. And it's a real problem on about a couple 100,000 acres, maybe close to 300,000 acres of our 1.3 million acre reservation. It is a real problem, and I deal directly with that. So it's if you guys know the horses, I got lots of them.
Okay, I have one question. Well, it's actually maybe 2. We recently had a commissioner appointed a new ranching rep to the commission. His name is Pete Moore. He was not able to make the meeting today. I asked him if he had any issues or anything on the agenda that he had any concerns with, and the only thing he mentioned was this particular agenda item, and he basically indicated that and this is consistent with what you said. He indicated that the ranching community, and I think it was actually the Cattlemen's Association had some issues with bringing antelope in and the disease issue. And so I guess, I think I've heard the answer to that, and you've answered that question already. The other thing that he basically forwarded, there were some news articles that we were able to locate on the internet. And in one of the articles, it indicated that the Washington, I don't know if it's Department of Wildlife or Division of Wildlife, did not participate in the initial transplant.
That's correct.
And that they didn't want to do it, and that it was the Yakama Nation as well as the SCI chapters that basically got this on. And so that led me to the question, why does the state of Washington Division of Wildlife not want the antelope? Or why didn't they join in the project? And, is there an issue there that we need to understand?
Well, this is kind of a long answer, but Leonard Eldridge, he's the state agricultural veterinarian. He was appointed, he replaced the person, his predecessor was removed because of a case of mad cow disease that had knocked him right off the reservation. And Leonard is extremely conservative. And we have the head of the Michigan Cattlemen's Association, Jack Mills, is a good talker. He doesn't always have a lot of facts behind what he says. And frankly, he's the guy that stirred this thing up. I've done a lot of research on programs, talked to Jack Robinson, who's APHIS Vet. He's a professor at Oregon State University. He's done a lot of work all over the world. He didn't think there was any problem whatsoever. The chose to say this, but I've talked to her in private, and the Department of Wildlife veterinarian agrees with us that this is blown out of proportion. It's political, and so they just kind of sat back and let us do it, and we're glad we did it. What they couldn't do, because they've had problems, not only that, but burying bigger sheep. They had a transplant planned for Montana. And 200 miles from where their sheep were, I think, well, I'm not sure what the outbreak was. It might have been brucellosis. I'm not certain what it was. Whatever it was, Landovich put a stop to it. And they were 200 miles distant. So it's, very conservative. He probably has, he's not going to get caught with his pants down that way, for sure. And sometimes, I've been in that for 47 years. And there's altogether as much politics as anything else involved in getting these projects done. Some of the best projects have taken a long time to accomplish, and this one's been very satisfying. I think I can say that I have almost no fears about, outbreaks of disease in livestock. I think a lot of my colleagues would agree with me, in particular some of the people who know a lot more than I do about the subject.
I haven't heard our livestock industry have any issues with antelope, but anyway, but continuing on with regard to the Washington Division of Wildlife, I mean, where they just didn't want to deal with issues with the Cattlemen's Association, or transplant in general?
If you want to hold it down, I think Mike know who it is. He's the guy. Talk to Donnie. See what he says. I think you'll find that he is supportive. Or Phil Anderson. Talk to Phil.
Anybody have any other commissioners? Commissioner Howell?
Is your ultimate goal to have a huntable population?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The Yakama people are, they don't have on subsistence food. They have traditional foods were deer. Their populations are declining for a lot of ways. They don't live in the area soon. There's been a lot of loss of not only deer numbers are going down with too horses, but a lot of food plants, even the fishery resources suffering, and a lot of subsistence resources that we have out there that barely is for the tribe. I'm not a tribal member, that's as much as I can speak for them. I think I'm speaking the truth when I say that subsistence resources are very important, particularly with the common areas, and how to put food on your table. And so it's, that's one issue, poaching. And to this point, we've had more planted feather-lion bighorns starting back in, 2007. So far, we've harvested 3 legally. That's and what's called an offset telegraph gets around pretty good. If somebody is poaching something, I think we know about it. We've had not one probably poached. I had guys that believe that was a non-tribal member. I think I know it was, but can't prove anything. But it's not that non-tribal members either would. There are a few people there that aren't very happy about it, but they have misguided in what they think, they're going to run the deer out. Well, my experience in going through Montana landing and seeing what I really thought of, if just lots of deer right there with them, it's not going to happen. It is a different habitat, so we're not going to really impact deer by having plumbers.
I guess I just have one question of the department, and that is, have we received any complaints from the Washington Department of Wildlife for anything negative of any kind? Because obviously we've had one transplant, so if there was an issue, I would assume they would have got a hold of us.
No.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, this is a...
One question
go
for
ahead.
Mike. How do we share the cost of this, or does Endow pay for it? How does this get?
All on his shoulders.
It's all on his shoulders.
Pretty much. No, do it. They pay for the capture and or per diem and stuff. We pay for and the medical treatment of we give them a dose of medication to keep them calm, and it works pretty good. But plus taking blood samples. But
Nice to see a buyer with cash.
thank you.
Okay, I guess at this point, it's an action item, so we need to take it out to public. So thank you very much, sir. Go ahead and sit down, and we'll take it out to public, get public comment. Gil, come on up.
Gil Yarnick, Carson Advisory Board. We had a record group of visitors to our meeting last week, and they were really, some of them were really concerned about this antelope roundup and transfer. They had a couple of questions I didn't have answers for. Maybe I can get those today. Mike, what's the estimated size of our antelope herd in the state? Okay, because they were concerned that, 100 or 200, 100 last year, 100 this year was going to be a big number. I said, I think it's a very, very small percentage, and I'm glad to see that it really is. The other question they had was almost addressed in part just a few minutes ago, because one of the members of the public asked, once this herd gets established, or the 100 or 200, whatever you're going to use, will they be able to be hunted by the public rather than just the reservation residents?
That's a good question. And at this point in time, we spend a lot of time off the reservation and on, so that is going to be regulated by the Department of Wildlife. This is in the ceded area, the Yakama Nation, so the tribe will also be harvesting animals within the ceded area. But they'll be up to the Department of Wildlife to regulate hunting outside. It looks like there's going to be a lot of antelope out there to hunt. Right now, most of them are on a checkerboard of private and state lands. So, it's not going to be very accessible for tribal members. It might be more accessible by non-tribal members, what they're occupying right now.
So then the Wildlife Department is going to establish a season, and when the herd gets to a certain size, or that's what their plans are?
And we are working very closely with the department on that. And it'll be a joint, we'll look at what the population looks like. And we're working as a co-manager of these antelope at this point within the ceded area on the reservation. And we've got a good working relationship with the department.
Thank you. That answers all the questions.
Okay, thanks, Gil. Any other public comment? Come on up, Jason.
For the record, Jason Peterson, on behalf of myself. The only question I have is, you had stated earlier that the state of Washington was not interested in bringing the herds in, but now you're stating that you're working hand in hand with them. How come the state of Nevada hasn't been contacted by the state of Washington requesting this herd and working out the deal and trying to make all the arrangements for this to happen?
That brought up another thought. And the Department of Wildlife, Washington Department of Wildlife, of course, their budget's getting thinner all the time. They spent about $100,000 on a habitat analysis, and it looked at a number of locations within the state. And that money came from the Safari Club, from Shekar, I think. They proposed that Safari Club give us some money to do an EIS. They didn't either S or an E, it looks like it would be an EA to me, but they said, well, they need another $100,000. And the Story Club said, well, we've got this other opportunity to get Antelope here without that. That's spending $200,000 before we even get Antelope on the ground. So that's the answer to that one.
Okay, that makes sense. Larry?
Larry Johnson, just speaking for myself. Some of the discussions, a little alarming, kind of reminds me of 15 years ago when Texas came to us wanting desert bighorn sheep, and the sportsmen of Nevada had this big uproar over whether or not the public was going to have the ability to hunt them or not. And I tried to remind people at that time that wildlife, first of all, doesn't recognize geographical boundaries. They're nonpartisan, you name it. We have California bighorns in the state of Nevada because the province of British Columbia was generous enough to give us small seed populations. They didn't put any strings on us that what we had to do with those sheep. It was recognized by those people that it was to everybody's advantage to put wildlife in every bit of environment that would support it. And it was the right thing to do for wildlife. And I would like to remind this audience today of that fact, quite frankly. Right now, we may be able to do something for British Columbia with California bighorns going back over the border someday. It is one large conservation family, and that's the way I would like to see this operate. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think that we all have to work together on this. The tribes, Canada being an important player, we have a number of tribes in the state of Washington, a lot more than the level of influential in Indiana, Nevada, or even Oregon. And the tribes, the election itself has bighorns, it also has non-votes. The state of Nevada and state of Oregon are trying to keep the gene pool up to date on our mountain goats. I don't know they're working too much longer, but I want to try to have as much influence as I can on the tribe, and I think the people that are taking their place would be more than willing to work with exchanging mountain goats, bighorns, whatever, to keep these populations healthy. This present day and age, you don't have you've got a lot of barriers to wildlife. A good example is the mountain goats that traverse the Cascades. Interstate radio is a pretty good barrier, and there's a diminished gene pool of mountain goats to the south. Fencing for areas where we want to keep these gene pools healthy and taking into account disease issues. I think that the tribes, the Caldwell tribe, and us in particular, and the Warm Springs tribe, we're all working on bighorns and mountain goats. They're not yet Caldwells, but they're interested. And I think it's really an advantage to work with all the entities to keep these animals healthy and make animals back to. Back in, I've been around a long time. Back in 1953 or so, they introduced California bighorns to Hart Mountain, bringing 25 head. And when I was growing up, I was around bighorn heads occasionally down in southeastern Oregon. And it was really thrilling when I was there to get to go out there, and I saw my first bighorn on Hart Mountain. I'm so happy to see bighorns back where they used to be. And I think we really need to work together. I think this man is right on. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission to see if anybody else has any questions after that public comment. I guess I just want to say that, one of the great things about a commission like this is that, we give everybody an opportunity to give input and make sure we make a good decision. And so, talking about tough issues is part of the process, and asking all the questions to make sure that we make the right decision, and that's really the purpose of it. And anyway, from what I see, this looks like a good thing. But any other questions? Then I think I'm ready for motion. I think we're basically we need to make a decision on whether to approve the transplant. Commissioner Rob?
I'll make a motion to approve request for antelope from the Yakama Nation in the state of Washington for up to 100 antelope.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.